Hello. It's lovely to be here. It's an honour to be asked to open somebody's show. Weather, as people say, it's an Irish obsession. It's like, I genuinely think that people in Ireland are melancholic because of the weather. I mean, the weather is different in Ireland than it is in the south of Portugal. You have to accept it. And you go into the winter, and people who suffer from melancholy or depression or whatever, they'll always tell you around this time, go to dread the winter now, because it gets darker and darker, and you look out and there's rarely a blue sky, and that kind of darkness, it makes people kind of grim, like particularly again in places like Cavan, where they don't constantly talk about the weather, they constantly talk about the bad weather. And sometimes, just to annoy them, when there'd be a blue sky completely, you'd say, "That's a great day today." And they'd say, "Aye, but will it last?" Do you call them goat's hairs? Do you know what goat's hairs are? Do you? Anybody? When we were young, that's what they used to call, you know, that kind of, it's a shape in the sky, like a hair that somebody's put a comb through. And it's a sign of good weather. If you get a mackerel sky, this is Cavan talk, but they'd say that's a queer mackerel sky. And it's the same shape as the back of a mackerel. It's a pattern shape. And it's the worst thing you could see if you're depressed, because it means it's going to be fucking miserable weather for about a week. But the goat's hairs are a sign of good weather. And sure enough, if once there's high pressure, it dramatically loosens the cloud. And so it drifts apart at such a rate that it creates a form. And the country people used to call them goat's hairs. The weather and the landscape are the two things that Bernie brings us in these paintings. And in a way, when you look at one of her paintings, you obviously have to ask yourself, are you looking at the weather, or are you looking at a representation of the weather? And that's an important question. And how you answer it determines how you relate to art on a wall. Now, I'm fond of, I do often talk about Thich Nhat Hanh, I'm fond of that fella. He talks about, like he says, there's no such thing as a cloud. He says, because the cloud turns into the rain, and then the rain turns into the river, and then the river turns into the cloud, and then the cloud turns into the rain. And that sense of transformation, of changing, so that there really is no beginning or no end to anything, but everything is changing, is the same for us. So if you're standing out in the weather, you're standing out in the rain, or you're standing out at the sea, what draws people into it is probably the fact that, again, there's no real distinction, there's no limit between you and it. In other words, the sense of duality that there's me looking at the weather is not quite true, because to start with, you're 80% water anyway, and the moisture in you is intricately connected with the moisture on the outside of your skin, and that's intricately connected with the high pressure, the goat's hair, or whatever it is. And in some strange way, when we stand in the weather, when we stand in the landscape, we kind of become present. It allows us, it pulls us into the present, because when we live abstracted, you know, when we're thinking of like that hooer on the late last night, he's an awful man. When we're thinking like that, we're actually thinking in these kind of abstract shapes that the mind makes that really don't necessarily exist. And they draw us away from this present moment of being in the room, of breathing in the room. If you're standing there listening to me and there's a voice going on in your head saying, he's all right, he's talking a bit longer, but he's not even telling a joke. You're going away from me, you're going away into your own mind. And we do that all the time, but when we walk out into the weather or walk into landscape, it draws us into the present because it's hard to ignore the rain. It's hard to ignore the sea. It's hard to ignore the cliffs. So I think Bernie has done something by bringing these things to us, but you have to ask yourself, as I say, are you really looking at a painting or are you looking at the real thing? In the sense of what is the real thing, because there's no distinction. She would say that these are representations of something that she saw. But if you look at, for example, there's one of Puffin Island, and you see the island in a blue background. And it's an island, but it's also floating. And I really love it particularly because it gives you that huge ambiguity of when you look at something, it's never quite what you think it is. Garcia Marquez, great writer, he used to say that we live life more deeply in the memory than in the experience. So you, like you have an awful breakup row with the wife, and then you get back together again. Or maybe you don't get back together again, maybe you separate and you're 20 years separate, and then you're at, the child's 21st, and you're just sitting there in the kitchen, it's 11 o'clock at night and you're having a beer. And she's saying, do you remember the night we had the row about your shoes? And you start laughing, and you say, yeah, God, Jesus, we fucking hit the head of each other. And this was like really unpleasant when it was happening. And now you're laughing at it. Or I often find, like, if you go to people who are bereaved, or if you're in the wake house when people are dead, you find two children in the kitchen, they're roaring laughing. Talking about the dead father or the dead mother. Do you remember the time she bet us for the cabbage or something, And so that strange thing of memory is where painting comes in, because painting is reminding us of something we've already experienced, if we have been out in weather. But it's also anticipating where we will go, because everybody tries to be happy in life, and they clench their fists and they do an awful job at trying to find some sort of therapy, philosophy, religion, or even relationship that will make them happy. We're an awful sad crowd of Egypts. What do you like about her? I think she'll make me happy. You're fucking joking. You'll make yourself happy or you won't be happy, and if you're not happy you won't be any good to her either. It's within you. But one of the great things that Thich Nhat Hanh says, and that I'm going back to him, is that the real secret is you're already happy but you don't know it. That's the real secret. I've discovered this by dozing, by staying asleep at the fire. I realised it was all a waste of time, all the effort. You don't have to. In fact, if you're trying to meditate, you're not really meditating. If you're just there and you give it up, you realise you're already there. But you are. I mean, that's what's astonishing. And it's the same with happiness. If you, no matter what pain, physical, emotional, you have, if in this moment you just stop for a moment and let go of it, like those thoughts in your head as abstract kind of constructs, you realise you're already happy. This is as good as it gets. So that therefore, when you look at a painting as well, you're looking into the future. You're looking at some landscape that someday you will see. Might be next week or might be in a year's time. And you'll see a sunset, or you will see an island, or you will see a calm sea, or you'll see a shower falling down like a drift of mist onto a beach. And you'll say, that's like Bernie's painting. See, because you've already seen it before it happens. And you're already happy before you ever achieve it. And that's the powerful thing about painting or art. It draws us into the past, what we've already experienced, but it actually also shows us what's to come. Now, nothing can do this in your house other than a painting or a piece of sculpture or whatever. Like the television won't do that. Even your loved one won't do that. So it's a strange thing that a piece of art does. And it's a very kind of beautiful way that connects us with this realization that, like, the cloud becomes the rain and the rain becomes the river, that also my standing here now, even me, Michael Harding, standing here in front of you and you, whatever your name is, we're connected, we're hardly even separate beings. It's like a left hand and a right hand, you know? And that rapport exists between you and the weather, and it's the weather that draws you into that realization. And when the artist gives you a painting, they're allowing you to look at something every time you look at it, every time you walk past it, that draws you into the past, into the present, into the future, into this moment, this eternal moment of being present. And that's what I think these paintings do, and they're very beautiful. Now that's all I have to say, except for one footnote. You're not to laugh at this, because I always find it's funny the way people laugh when you say, and they're for sale. There you go again now. Isn't it funny? Like if I was a bank manager and I was talking here about life insurance, I wouldn't be laughing at all. But these paintings will do you much better than, you know, the jacuzzi, life insurance, or the south of Portugal, because they could allow you to become present. That's what art does, and they are for sale, and there are payment methods, and I hope you do buy some, or somebody does, because they're very beautiful. And I'd now like to declare this long-winded speech over and this exhibition open.
Just to finish off into the microphone that we're not sure is working or not, I just want to thank Michael so much, and just to give him a little bit of a plug, his book Hanging with the Elephants has just been published, so maybe have a look at that. And he will be with us here in Draiocht in March of next year as well, so we're really looking forward to that. So just to say thanks so much. And again to Bernie, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure to work with you and to see the work progress over the last 2 years and to finally see it here in Draiocht. So thank you so much. And to thank you all again for coming out here today. It's been such a pleasure. So thanks.